Ladies and gents, welcome back. We have grounds to celebrate this morning, a victory of sorts. Now, I'm not going to bury the lead here, but I do need to explain what we're talking about. Stop the Treaty, hashtag Stop the Treaty, has been trending for weeks across the globe. And this has to do with the World Health Organization Treaty on Pandemic Response. Now, Leslyn Lewis, who is a Conservative MP in Canada, and she's also a candidate for running for the position of leader of the Conservative Party at the moment. Leslyn Lewis has been leading the campaign against the World Health Organization Treaty. Now, I'm going to jump right into her own words. Why not hear from her herself?
A few weeks ago, I alerted you to a meeting or to meetings that took place in December between 190 plus nations regarding the creation of the World Health Organization Global Pandemic Treaty, which would basically potentially turn over our healthcare monitoring of our country during pandemics to the WHO. And by the way of update, a meeting is scheduled at the World Health Assembly next week during May 22nd to the 28th. And that meeting will deal with amendments to the international health regulations, which I have the document right here, and I'm going to go through it with you. Currently, under the WHO, a sovereign nation like Canada can abide by the WHO recommendations or follow their own agenda. They are trying to amend this so that in October, the World Health Pandemic Treaty would take effect. It's not fully drafted yet. It's just in the talks right now, and they're going to have consultations, etc. But at that point, after it's signed, the WHO would be in total control of global pandemics. And once this is done, all signatory nations must adhere to what is agreed to in this document. So currently, the current regime is that the WHO can make recommendations or suggestions, but after this treaty comes into effect, they become orders. And I'll reference you this document. You can find it online on the WHO website. It's called Strengthening WHO Preparedness and for Response to Health Emergency, Proposals for Amendments to the International Health Regulations of 2005.
And I'll recommend that you watch the rest of this video, and I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to this. But Leslyn Lewis has been leading the charge, excuse me, in Canada for fighting against this treaty with the interest of keeping our sovereignty when it comes to our decision making. We saw how terrible the response was to the pandemic at a local level within our own borders. We don't want to have a similar tragedy take place on a global scale, which it seems to be the plan here. Now, she wasn't just vocal on social media; she was vocal on the floor in the House of Commons in the Parliament. So here she is speaking there.
The honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Canadians deserve to know what this government is signing away. It is irresponsible to negotiate pandemic response powers when we haven't had a public inquiry into our own pandemic policies. How can we prepare for the future when we haven't learned the lessons from the past 2 years? Will the Prime Minister tell Canadians today when a public inquiry into government COVID responses will be established?
Spoiler alert, he didn't. Sorry, in the sake of not having to hear his voice, which I know a lot of you are just disgusted with, and and just hearing his blabbermouth non-response. He didn't. But anyway, so moving forward, apparently I'm not on Leslyn Lewis's mailing list, but a viewer of the channel is, and sent me this message that went out just yesterday, last night, this morning. So let's get right to it. So this is from Leslyn Lewis, and this is her obviously her official account. Dear whoever is on the mailing list, I'm so proud of Canadians. Engaged citizens all over the world worked tirelessly, and yes, they did. And this isn't just a Canadian effort. This has been all over the world. People showing up to the UN assemblies going, we're not doing this. Engaged citizens all over the world worked tirelessly to ensure that the changes to the international health regulations did not pass at the World Health Assembly last week. As you recall, those changes would have given the World Health Organization more power over pandemic designation and response within our country. We said no to a group of global unelected bureaucrats meddling in our pandemic and healthcare response. Now, mind you, this could have made it so the World Health Organization, they could have declared obesity an epidemic, which has been teased at, to which they would undermine our sovereignty and our healthcare decisions and come in and tell you to eat the bugs or whatever they want to tell you. In order to make sure that you're not a little tubby, you know what I mean? Here's the timeline of how we won against the WHO overreach. Number one, January 18th, 2022, the U.S. Biden administration proposed amendments to the international health regulations. Yep, that good old Brando. There was a shroud of secrecy around the amendments, and a lot of talk was generated about the Global Pandemic Treaty, which has not yet been drafted in the following months. May 17th, I launched a petition to stop the treaty. Sorry if some of this is cut off. May 18th, 2022, I questioned Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on why Canada would consider signing these amendments and asked for a national inquiry into our own pandemic response. Later that day, I hosted a Facebook Live event to explain the concerning parts of the IHR amendments. So, yeah, here we are up to speed. May 19th, the CBC, which receives $1.2 billion annually from... Annually! Seriously? That's how much money they get from us taxpayers annually. Ran an article criticizing my claims and had supposedly neutral experts suggest that I was misleading people, fear-mongering, and spouting conspiracy theories. May 22nd, 2022, I discovered that the so-called experts were not neutral at all, but boast ties to the Trudeau Foundation and even the World Health Organization themselves. Nice. That's great. May 23rd, 2022, I sent a letter to Minister Jean-Yves Duclos, Minister of Health and head of the Canadian delegation to the WHA meeting in Geneva, urging him not to sign the IHR amendments, and shared with him the overwhelming response to my petition with over 22,000 Canadian signatures. And I honestly believe that if the media wasn't covering it the way it was, or, it gave some truth to it, if the word actually were able to get out more, there would be a lot more signatures than that. I honestly believe that. I know my signature is in there. I discovered that civil society groups around the world were fighting this too. On Friday, May 20th, 2022, a United Kingdom resident took his government to court to find out what they were doing with the IHR amendments and to get documents to disclose the public documents revealed a lack of consensus between countries in the working group on pandemic response. Unconfirmed sources say many African and South American nations had serious concerns with the amendments. No doubt. While we cannot attribute any one incident to the lack of consensus, we know that there was mounting pressure from civil society around the globe, including the court case. May 24th, 2022, it appeared that Biden's IHR recommendations were no longer on the table and new amendments were submitted to the working group on pandemic response. However, These were submitted in violation of Article 55 of the IHR, which requires all amendments to be submitted at least 4 months prior to the World Health Assembly. This notice period is necessary so that civil society can have time to review and respond. Oh, so just ram it down. This is not the U.S. Congress, my man, because that's how they do things over there. But May 27, 2022, the replacement amendments were revised and published by the World Health Organization and then opted by the World Health Assembly. See the video. I don't have the link for that. Victory secured. we got a victory of sorts. While the replacement amendments are likely illegitimate because they break the notice requirement rule, they appear to be much milder than the original amendments. It seems that the WHA felt the need to replace the old amendments with something else since they could not reach consensus. Our work to help sound the alarm contributed to the lack of consensus, prompting the WHA to drop the original amendments. We won, but we must not stop here. We must continue to watch the drafting process of the Global Pandemic Treaty to make sure there is no attempt for power grabs by the WHO. We must also be thankful that this was a window into what the WHO wants to do: reduce public consultation opportunity and harmonize, centralize pandemic response away from sovereign nations. So that is a victory of sorts, because the fight is not over. And just like Bill C-11, well, Bill C-11 was once Bill C-10, and so on. We need to keep up this fight, and that's really what it comes down to. Man, I keep going along with these videos. I'm trying not to do that for you guys. But yeah, we need to keep this fight going because it's going to come again, and we need to get more people aware of what they're trying to do over there at the World Health Organization and these international assemblies. So I'll leave it there. Leave it with you guys. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Leave a like, and we'll see you in the next video. Keep on trucking.